Okay, so let me share the screen with you.
Is that alarm in your room?
What's that?
The alarm, is that in your room?
Alarm? No.
Somebody has an alarm going off.
Okay. Here, so last time we talked about the 10 ox. Did you watch that one? You were here in the 10 ox?
No. It's true, I know, I can hear it.
You hear that?
Do you have a phone in your room? You need to go turn it off.
Oh, yeah, set up for the children. To the patient.
Oh, to finish the month. Sorry. Wow. I guess you just can't really manage your words.
Wow, you're giving the show set. I didn't hear. I couldn't hear it.
Maybe it's the tone. Can't hear that? It must be the tone.
Yeah, maybe tone. Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. So last time we learned about what they call the 10 ox. That represent the stage of meditative state of mind. So last time I show the first, I think the first four. So, Sam, would you mind to read this one? And number one, can you? It's too small.
No, it's fine.
I think you figured be better again.
Seeking the ox, lost in samsara, but pulled towards the higher truth.
Okay, stop it. You know what's mean? The first stage, that's the state of our mind probably now. So when we sit down, our mind run everywhere. It's like the wild ox, the wild horse. So that's why it represents that a person or the boy look for the ox. In the past, so people live in the farm, so they use especially in China and Vietnam, they use the ox instead of the cow or the horse here to cultivate the field. Yeah, so that's why it's just the symbolic way of explanation when we deal with our own mind. Just run everywhere. We could not see our mind. That's the first step. And that's second step.
Is this the steps for meditation?
Yeah, the kind of step of not just meditation. It's this. There's a step of purification, purify the mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Number two, please.
Finding the tracks, listening, studying, seeing the path.
Yeah. You understand that? It's like when we sit down, we could recognize, let's say, our breath or our own feeling. That's the time that we recognize who we are, recognize our feeling, recognize whichever thing happening in our body and mind. Can you read number three, please?
First glimpse of the ox. Meditation is the beginnings of
Prajna. You know what's prajna? Prajna. I mean wisdom. Yeah. So when we come to our mind, it's like when we put the dirty water cup on the table, eventually on the dust, a particle will sail down. We have the clear water on the top. So when we sit down, we don't do anything to hold the breath. Eventually, it might be sailed down, and we have that kind of clarity. That's what wisdom is about. That's number three. Let me Kristen. Number four.
Four. Catching the ox, a deeper grasping of the clashes, recognition of the hindrances of self. So the clashes are like the skandhas, the heaps of senses that you are really comprised of, and then you start to understand that out of these heaps you have created this idea of self, and this idea of self prevents you from really seeing.
Okay, that's what we stopped last time. And let's see, we go to the next one here. That's number 4 here. Okay. Number 4. Number 5. Haley,
Through discipline, practice, separation dissolves, and struggling eases, but must not waver our intention.
Yeah, you recognize your own breath, you recognize your own feeling, but you have to put more effort and pay attention on that. Yeah. Yeah, and Stephen, can you read, please?
I still teeter ox, or off he goes, till trained and gentle, then abiding unbridled.
You understand that?
Partially, I guess. In a sense, you're basically trying to, now that you kind of calm down the mind, but you also have to guide it in the proper directions. And keep going with that guidance, or else basically you're going to wander off to just the same chaos again. Your mind is always going to be wandering. So, Mofate.
Thank you. What's his name? What's his name? Oh God. Yes. Oh, Mr. Chris. Yeah. Could you mind to read, please? Sorry, couldn't hear you. Turn on. Yeah, please. We can hear you.
Chris, on you.
Sorry about that, guys. Peacefully returning home, the struggle is over. Enticements no longer a concern. Free from old fears and anxieties.
So you understand?
Yeah, it's yes. Once we become practiced in our methods, then the enticements to the attachments seem to ease, and fears and anxieties kind of go to the wayside because we know that things are temporary.
Yeah. When they come our mind, no thought could bother us. That's why our mind so calm. There's no anxiety, no stress, no fear to bother us. Yeah. Ivan. Yeah, please.
All right, walk slowly home. Whoever hears the tune joins. Those that see that you can aim or show life will rejoice, show more excitement.
So you, basically, this state of mind, you can totally control your mind. It's not easy, right, to get up there. It's pure far for us. But if we get to that state of mind, then we can control our mind. Yeah. What's her name? Oh, could you mind, please?
I didn't realize it's understood that the ox was never astray. Separation of realization and practice can be.
Mm.
And I need to give an interpretation for that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. What, I think to think of that my ego keeps me from seeing things as they really are.
Mm-hmm. So basically, at that moment, at that time, when you're in the control of your mind, you will not need um, to follow the breath anymore. You just follow every moment of your life, every step, or anything you walk, and you're so mindful. You are one with variety. There's no separation. That what called it. You're in tune with everything you do. Now for us, it's quite different. Why we sit in, we listen our conversation, but our mind still run everywhere. But at that moment, the moment of this, the ox transcended. So we're in tune anything that we do. That's what we call the transcendent mind. Mm. Would you mind to read, please? Can you read?
Morning rise. I sit serenely on the thatched flat. Red and rose now.
Yeah. So yeah.
So the wildness that maybe we had before, we got to calm down, and we don't need to go any maximum.
Yeah. So at the first stage of meditation, we focus on the breath, focus on our feeling, and that time at this step, there's no need to focus on anything. We in tune with the environment, whichever we do. So there's no need to follow the breath. There's no need to follow the feeling. Just be with them. That's what's about. Yeah, can you please?
No longer ox nor self, the circle embodies emptiness, duality surmounted, ordinary reality forgotten.
Okay.
So the way that you view reality changes whenever you are able to detach from it.
So now we live in duality, right? Good, bad, black, white, like this life. That's why our minds are so fluctuated. Whenever we like something, we have tendency to attach to. If we don't like, we tend to have some anger. So now in this state of mind, this will be beyond duality. It's that type of stillness. So we live with that kind of transcendence in mind.
It says duality. What does that mean?
Opposite poles, good, bad, black, white, male, female, and so forth. That's duality. In this state, it go beyond that. It live with that kind of presence, with that kind of pure mind. That's all. Yeah, it takes time, a lot of time to. Please.
With rope, man, and ox, all gone, merged into the void, universe so vast, one with the ancient masters. So, I guess once you've gotten to this mastery point and you've stabilized a non-dual place of thinking where you understand how it really is all one. That there isn't really the separation that we perceive, and once that's truly stabilized, then that's liberation. That's your arahant, your Buddhas, are the beings that can see reality and the fluctuations all as one coming and going.
Yeah. And the duality, good, bad, male, female, and so forth, is a product of the mind. That's why we create our own problems, according to the Zen tradition. Yeah.
Without duality, things simply are what they are. Life grows and withers. The ordinary is the ultimate, not the return of the source.
Yeah.
So there's just no judgment. Everything's just as it is. Found wisdom.
Go back to the original mind. That's a pure mind. Yeah. No discrimination, no unequal thinking anymore. We live that type of pureness. Yeah. And Stephen, can you read, please?
Striving to return to the origin, so much unneeded effort. Better to start blind and deaf. No distractions. River flows and flowers bloom, unconcerned. Here, I guess it's stating that you're just getting back to your pure mind, to where it wasn't touched with all the chaos of, the wanting and needing and all the distractions. So this is just your pure form. And that's about the most of what I understand of it.
I used to ask my student that, let's say if you meet someone on the street, if they don't have any more anger, if they don't have any more craving, how you feel about that person? Probably in our life, we would not seen that kind of person before, right? No way. To this day, so that's just the day of the sage, the Holy One, that they don't have a kind of attachment, anger, and so forth. They might so calm, they might so peaceful. That's the day of what we call nirvana here. Mr. Chris, please. Yeah, Mr. Chris.
Enlightened now, the oxherd returns to the world. The circle is complete, going about his daily work, sharing existence with all around him. I'm thinking that this means that once we have transcended desires and put them aside and realized our true selves, that we take that information and we share it with others, and help them on their path.
Why is it different from Theravada tradition, right? When you done, when you attain that nirvana, stay of mind, forget everyone, you done. Right? But here, the Zen tradition is so quite different. When you get that type of enlightenment, that type of pureness in your mind, you need to go back and help others. Yeah, you know why?
Bodhisattva vow.
Yeah, Bodhisattva vows. That's why most of the Maha Buddhist monk, they made the besides taking the monastic life, they also take the Buddhist vows. Yeah, maybe let me find out this type of video.
Before we start on those self-doubts, so my question to you and to everyone is, this is a process, and my own personal experience is that I may go through this process in one part of my life, and in another part, it doesn't seem to go, but it's going really well. And then something happens, and I feel like I slide down the pole, and I start again. So it's a process that begins, it's always ongoing, and my final expiration is maybe the 10th the story. So, I mean, I feel as if I have lived and felt some times of my life that I would call nirvana. And it's something that doesn't last very long. When I first started and got into this, I said, oh, I can't wait to get to nirvana. Everything's going to be great. And then I realized it was a long. But I have experienced parts of that. And it was really delightful and wonderful. And I wasn't clinging to it. I wasn't hanging on to it. I was just thinking, wow, this is really wonderful. It's like everything. It's like I'm in a flow with life and everything. And then boom, something happens and short and then the beginning. But I'm a little bit wiser when I started in. Because I know whether it's cloudy or whatever side. That's not going to make how I feel inside. What I feel inside is what I have and what I learn and what I experience. So is this number 10? Is this nirvana?
Sorry, I could not focus because I'm looking for it. Can you take one more time?
Yes.
Maybe short, please.
Yes. Is number 10 nirvana? Is now the go.
Actually, number 9, not number 10. Number 9. Number 9. Number 10, go back to help people.
Okay, go back.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's different from Theravada tradition. Okay. Yeah. Is that your question?
Yeah. But for me, it's not something that I stay and I never go back to the beginning. It seems as if I'm always going back to the beginning. And now that I understand that it's a process, it's ongoing, that's okay. I can maybe identify with some of those things that you saw.
There's some different interpretations of what nirvana and enlightenment means. So you might hear, let's say, from the Mahayana tradition that here is this what you can get to nirvana in many ways and it can come and go. But in the Theravada tradition, you lifetime by lifetime move up there, and then once you've stabilized that, you've extinguished all your karmas, and you're not get put back into that cycle. So that's a tricky question because the different lineages kind of interpret what nirvana and enlightenment is. It's not really different, but it has different angles.
Sure.
I think that's with any type of practice you have too, because I was really involved in the yoga studio, and that was what everybody would say. I get so involved in this, and I'm really, forward, and then I fall off, and then a few years I come back again. So I think that's kind of a natural kind of progression of the flow of life.
That's good. That's good reply. Okay. Anyway, so I will look for the video and potential. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our. Let me share the screen. Oh, while you asking that question, I remember there's one person that emailed to me, asked similar question, and he mentioned that somehow he felt that he reached that kind of enlightenment or nirvana, but when he stand up. Somehow he still feel uneasiness. Still, I mean that his mind is still unstable. Maybe nirvana. I don't know. So nirvana is state of mind. You have the kind of pureness, that kind of stability. No matter what happened to you, no matter what people say to you, no matter what environment or situation, your mind is still calm. That is what we call nirvana, is a state of everlasting peace, nothing disturb that kind of peace.
I find it much easier when I'm alone.
That's right.
I feel like I'm doing good, and then like my kids will come home and I'm like, or I'll go out in public and I'm like,
That's
okay,
something else grabs your attention.
Yeah, that's
but when you're by yourself, it's not.
definitely. Yeah, no, yeah. There's a funny story. This one a monk, he lived in the temple. So somehow, when you live together with other people, whether at home, at work, community, there's a lot of conflict there. So this monk said, well, I want to go to the forest to do meditation by myself so I can find my own peace. Yes, he did. So he went there for a while and he practiced. Somehow he got that kind of peacefulness and calmness for a while. And so somehow at the moment that he said, oh, wow, nothing can change my mind, nothing can disturb my mind. What happened? Then there's some boys coming and somehow they mess around with him while he was sitting. And at first he said, okay, I could be patient with these children. But later on, he could not. So he yelled to them, do you know that I'm sitting here? So what happened then? So this is the story. So the one Bodhisattva, there's a compassion Buddhist up here say, well, you see that? You just mentioned that nothing disturbed your mind, but the boys that just run around and you say that you cannot handle that.
Here's your test. You failed.
I think that the bulk of the opinions also is you're really not going to get anywhere near nirvana until you become a monk. You have renunciated everything. That even means you've eliminated your preferences to certain types of food. You've eliminated your any kind of sexual craving, any comfort craving. I mean, if you really examine what it is, with this idea of being totally stable, it's really removing a lot of our natural impulses, what we're naturally driven around by. So you really examine that. The idea of attainment is really far out of any of our reach, maybe a little closer to their reach, but
Yeah.
I like that story because that's what I like to see things as, is like tests. So once I find my patients and stuff, and I know my kids are coming home, I'm like, okay, I'm going to test it. Or I'm getting ready to go out and just to see their different experiences is like, okay, what am I being tested on? Is it patience, not anger, my generosity? Usually it's patience.
Yeah.
If everything is impermanent and everything is empty of form, it seems like if you have a moment of nirvana, it's temporary. Mm-hmm. Because what is that? There are no nouns, it's just words. So it's always in a state of coming and going. It's an aspiration, but I feel like if I even get there for a moment, it's like, check that one off later.
Well, I like to think of the negative side of that too. So if you're upset, it's the same thing, it's impermanent. So even though, it's going to go away, so you don't have to cling to it, and you can release it, so you're not into it for so long. But yeah, if I found nirvana, I might cling to it a bit.
Yeah, it takes a lot of effort at first. Take a lot of effort that
You see the puddle.
To settle our mind. Yeah.
Both are rocking it.
Especially if you have the children, it's not easy, right? No, when they grown up, when they fly away from your net, you have more time.
retire too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like.
Yeah, somehow, yeah, I met some parents. Yeah, when they were with their children, they say so busy. But whenever the children left home, like go to college, go to work, and so forth, they feel empty at home and they don't know what's going to do. So that's why somehow, if we have some kind of mental practice and meditation is be helpful.
Same thing with retirement too.
Yeah.
A lot of people when they retire,
they don't know.
pass away very quickly.
They don't know what they're doing.
It's really important to have these
Yeah,
types of things.
Yeah, it's more healthy. More healthy when they retire, they do something, do want to work, keep their mind busy, keep my active, keep their body active. Otherwise, it's going down easily. So that's why somehow many people when they are up to mid age and so forth, they turn back to religion, to la upon the spiritual path. It's more healthy. Okay, so let's just read this couple of meditative things.
The word meditation has been used to cover the many forms of sustained concentration and attentiveness that are central to almost all notions of Buddhist practice. In the earliest stage of the religion, such forms of meditation not only often led to trance-like states of mind, but these states were explicitly extolled as the goals of meditation. However, an important difference between the cultivation of meditative practice and the attainment of trance states is that the latter is only possible when there is an accompanying advancement in physical and ethical discipline.
Yeah.
So meditation isn't simply to just like calm down and sort of de-stress, like the mindfulness kind of craze, but like you have to have the discipline and like the precepts or something, to like an ethical background to make a forward progression of it.
You need to put a lot of effort too, not overnight. Yeah, it's like if we have this kind of water bottle, right? It's dirty water in the water bottle here. So yes, we can keep it for a while so that all the particles be settled out to the bottom. But what happens if we keep touching them? If we keep moving them, they go up. So after we do meditation, somehow we do something, this is disturb our mentality to come back. That's why it takes a lot of effort.
Physically, one must be trained to sit comfortably in a meditative posture for a sustained period of time and to regulate breathing and so on. Ethically, one must first remove all impure, egoistic, and destructive thoughts. In addition, 5 habitual categories of thought must also be suppressed totally: sensual desire, resentment or ill will, indolence or lethargy, guilt and agitation about lapses in concentration, and indecision or doubt. Conceived as mental hindrances to the attainment of trance, these thoughts and urges are seen as too disrupting of the advanced concentration needed to reach what are extremely unusual and easily lost states of mind. So first of all, you have to sit for a really long time, and then you have to remove all of those thoughts. And that's when I go into the lost state.
Yeah, I don't like this word. The author use suppress. In Buddhism, no, we don't use this word. Let go of them. Not suppress them. Because the more we suppress them, the more it's easy for them to spin up.
Well, a lot of the Pali discourses, the translation of it is, I think it's uprooted, where you uproot a lot of these things. You're not suppressing them, you're not necessarily, but you're finding out what the bottom of it is and then eliminating that that circumstance in your mind.
I like that because it seems a lot more long term. Like, when I meditate, it's nothing.
Well, but the thing is, so you're uprooting anger, hatred, greed. So all those things that cause these negative mind states, those aren't there, you know, so we think about the way that one thing creates the other, that there is no more of that which creates anger, hatred, greed, which is ignorance, which is not or recognizing.
In Zen tradition, we would not use the approach in recognition, the awareness of those impure thought. That's all.
Just seeing.
Yeah.
Just recognize them. Whenever we recognize them, they be gone. You understand that? So, because this is like the dot when the particle in the water bottle, right? When you recognize them, they will settle down. They won't bother us. Sometimes we cannot control our mind because all kind of thought going on in our mind. But if we settle down and we see them, oh, they're impermanent, and we say they come and go. Much easier for us to let go when we recognize them. So that's why in Zen tradition they say that for the Zen practitioner, they will not concern much about those kind of thoughts. The only thing concern is whether they can recognize them or not. That's more important. Yeah, it takes time, so a lot of time to recognize them. Yeah, it takes a lot of effort too. If you really focus, you could. At first, it's a step. At first, you recognize your breath as your physical body. Second, you recognize your feeling, good feeling, bad feeling, and so forth. And eventually, you recognize your own thought. When it pop up, we know. But now it's not easy with all kind of thought that happen in our mind. Yeah. Can you read this?
It demands a lot of self-honesty. Self-honesty, being honest with yourself, really down to the fingernails. Not just, oh yeah, that's anger. Get it minimum. And then it comes back. You have to recognize it again, and you have to say, I think I want to do something about that.
Is that part of coming out of ignorance? If you're able to, like she said, like really see and not like lie to yourself or make yourself better, but see it for what it is.
Just aware of that. That's all. To be aware of that's just more important. That you don't manipulate your thought. If you project your thought, manipulate your thought, that's different. This morning, this one gentleman came here and he showed me the clip, and somehow it's long story made it short that in the clip he said that if we need to recognize ourselves, we need to think, we need to imagine. They say no. The more you imagine yourself, the more you protect your own mind, and the more crazy you are. The same more. So it's better to let them go, to let go, to calm the mind. If you project yourself, if you have the kind of imagination, you can imagine in the good side and the bad side, right? It's all kind of imagination, like the artists can paint any kind of image, picture, beautiful one, ugly one, and so forth. But in Zen tradition, the important is to be aware of them and let them go. That's all. So that's why we can calm our mind in the long term. Yeah.
Meditation under 3 headings: mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. All of these are vital to spiritual progress, but it is generally under the definition of concentration that we find reference to what one would call training.
Okay, that's enough. Yeah.
That point of concentration that the mind is still mind. Trance is, in modern terms, you see it in a state of flow, that when your skill level meets or exceeds within a reason, you just know the actions without knowing where you're going to be. You see it when you're driving, learning, or martial arts experience. It's a state of mind.
Again, in Buddhism, the wisdom come naturally. When am I calmed down? When am I at peace? The wisdom come forward. That's all. We don't need to seek anywhere. The wisdom different from knowledge. The knowledge we go to school and we learn from others and so forth. But we have our inner wisdom already. So whenever we come our mind, we have the kind of clarity. Whenever we have the kind of clarity, the wisdom there. Yeah. And Stephen, can you read next one, please?
Although the tradition typically claims that its meditation is achieved without the need to disengage the senses from the outside world, the discussion of trance meditation in Buddhist literature makes frequent reference to transforming sensory functionality to reveal that it is ultimately unreliable, and the advanced forms of trance is described as transcending perception.
Yeah, stop there, please. Yeah.
I didn't quite understand that one.
So in Buddhism, especially in tradition, it's like the meditative state of mind achieved without the need of disengage of the sense. So we don't need to cover our eyes. We don't need to cover our ears. Just be there and recognize them. That's what it's about. When we let's say do breath meditation, we don't need to cover the ear. Just recognize our breath. Just recognize our feeling. And when we in tune with the practice meditation, whichever we do, we're cooking, driving, and so forth. We're in tune with that kind of daily activities. That's what it's about.
What about when bad thoughts come up?
You can let them
It's
go.
hard. I know, but it's hard because sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm even thinking that. That's horrible. You know, you want to kind of suppress that, not
suppress. Let go. Let them go.
That kind of makes sense, especially when I work in an office environment. Sometimes it can, especially when everyone's all in the office, we have close to 40 staff members. And when everyone's going all at once, you get all this noise and chaos all around you. And now that kind of makes sense when you explain that. As long as you can just like recognize and be aware of it and just being able to let go. And I guess that's where most of the time I just like anyone else, that's the one thing that I would love to learn more and more. Just to learn how to understand, recognize. And what I do sometimes is I kind of block out. So depending on what I'm doing, I would bring in my headphones, and that's just like kind of like blocking things out, and just so I can listen and then at the same time just concentrate on my daily whatever the work I'm doing. And I actually, for the time being, I can do it pretty well, but I need to practice without the headphones of just recognizing and just letting the distraction, just letting it go. So more thing.
Yeah, especially if you have a children, right? They run around, they fight each other. If you get engaged, you'll be mad. But if you step back, say, oh, okay, they're children. They can play and cry and so forth. That will have awareness, you're more compassionate for them. But if you really engage and you set aside of this child or other child, right? You're in trouble with them too. So that is similar in a similar way. Just step back and recognize them and let them go.
Well, you can't. If they start putting their hands on each other, you gotta step in. You know. Like
sometimes you need to step in. You step in.
But it's the way you step in, so it's like you can't be
in a mindful way. Instead of yelling them stop and so forth, or through something else. I used to tell the story to my student that back then in Vietnam, when it was I think about 9 or 10 years old. So one day, at the school, one of my teacher, he's so nice that he could buy for us the pen, before it's pretty expensive when over there right after war. So somehow when he walked into the room, it's chaos. We run everywhere. We make the noises and so forth. So he just walked into the room calmly and we still run around, we still playing, make the noises, hit the table, hit the chair, so forth. So what happened? And he just sat down and his desk. He flipped. Everything shut down. But that's not good for me. Not good. Not good. He flipped the whole desk. Whole desk. Yeah. And that's why I mean, because he couldn't control his anger. At first, he felt that he's so calm, but actually he's not.
Because he's suppressed.
He's suppressed that. So why he couldn't control that? He's so nice with the student, but somehow they mess around. So he flipped the desk, and everything calmed down. Yeah, it's again, it's like the parents. Right? Sometimes your children play around. You may not control your mind much. You do something to make the tension, right? You may even break the bowl or the cup and so forth. But again, that's not good teaching for them. Right? So for normal people, if they don't do any kind of meditation, not easy. Not easy to handle that type of situation when it's involved with children. When you like and Stephen, right? When you deal with all kind of chaos at work and so forth. You need to have that kind of practice to cool your mind. Yeah, Chris, can you read next, please?
Indeed, the most exalted state is said to be a trance of total mental cessation, Nirodha Samapatti, described as neither cognition nor non-cognition, where the operations of sensation and conceptualization have shut down. There is in Buddhism an a priori conviction that for the person who is ethically prepared, turning the mind away from the objects of sensory perception naturally brings the individual closer to nirvana. That is a tough one, but I'm going to take a stab at it. The less we see or try to attempt to understand the sense of sensory perception, eyes, ears, the less we pay attention to that, the more we enter into what true meditation should be about, which is returning to our Buddha state, a nothingness or an emptiness.
Let's go beyond, right? Go beyond
yes.
the condition and non-condition. How about as a teacher, especially high school teacher, how could you deal with them when you walk into a room? It's chaos room. There's so much noisy.
You know, I have noticed over the past year or two some suppression, like you were just referring to, something I got into, and I guess because I was tired and you know, as the year was going on, I was ready to be done, but I was suppressing this, and I would engage in bouts of anger, not so much like your teacher did, but you know, I would feel the anger welling up. So I need to realize the difference between suppression and ignoring or diverting my attention elsewhere.
Awareness in Buddhist view, we use the word aware. Be aware of them.
Aware.
Be aware of them. Step back to stay neutral around. So we have the kind of movement, right? The movement of the chaos, like children turn around. No.
Not really, because they're so young that from day one, we practice how to behave.
And good.
I had a really good class this last year. I'm hoping for another good one this year. But when I do feel those feelings of like things are getting chaotic, we just, whatever we're doing, we just pause. Then I'll make a brain break where we can move our bodies and I can move mine and breathe and just stop. And then we just go back, like we have to stop whatever it is and then refocus.
So that right, that mind so pure, you can guide them, right? That's wonderful. Yeah, that's nice.
Great.
How about college student in high school?
The college system's so bad. The high school,
Mm-hmm.
depends on when in high school. Like the closer they get to like, we were just talking about this the other day because Willow is going through this right now. Like that transition into junior and senior, the maturity sets in, and they're like, a lot of the time they're like, okay, we're not going to hassle you because we know you have a job to do because you're not going to hassle us. Like there's this understanding. Freshmen and sophomores are wild. They're crazy, but thankfully in what I teach, like the chaos is kind of good because if there's chaos, you're probably working because we do a lot of the project based stuff. So and that doesn't really bother me that much. So
Okay then. Okay, so Sam, would you like to read this?
These parent states function as concrete goals in meditative practice. Their attainment has always been associated with the goal of individual liberation. In the early Nikaya Pali and Dhamma Sanskrit sutras, the word jnana, usually translated simply as meditation, frequently denotes four specific states of trance. In Buddhist doctrine, the successful practice of these jnanas leads to a highly
I'm sorry. Yeah.
advanced spiritual condition in which all sensory desires are eliminated, and further progress towards the final goal of nirvana is relatively easy. The fourth and highest jhana is the stage from which arhats and bodhisattvas enter nirvana. This process is elsewhere described in terms of progressing through another four types of trance called jhana formlessness. Because they are characterized by the state of mind, which form we know it does not exist.
Okay. There's a lot for you.
Honestly, I meditate a lot on formlessness, and I was kind of having recently what our discussion today has been about. Like, you think you've gotten somewhere, you think that you've got that box, and then he gets away from you. I felt like that. I felt like I had several months where I felt a lot of just peace and calm, and but it's easy to be good when things are good, and then I had a challenging time, and it was kind of like just like a fall from I thought I got to a certain level, and then I felt like I fell and was not at the same level anymore, and I feel like I've meditated a lot on formlessness to where a lot of stuff that used to bother me doesn't bother me anymore. But there's at least one thing that can still bother me. And it happened to bother me recently. And I feel kind of like, starting over, like you were talking about earlier almost. But I also think about how, in one of the sutras I think about a lot. It talks about how in Buddhism they talk about there's like certain states where they call like a non-returner, like somebody whose progress has got to a point where they don't go back. But in this particular sutra, they say if you ever think to yourself that you've attained that state, you really haven't. So. Yeah, so it's been an interesting conversation. It's been a lot of stuff that's been on my mind, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think of or talk to people that don't believe in the reincarnation, let's say lifetime after lifetime, you can see that in your own mental states, your own progress, right? you've gone in, you feel like you've completed this thing. And then next thing you know, almost the same thing is brought to life in a different form. So you can apply that, without saying lifetime after lifetime, you can do that with mind states, addictions, preferences, relations, whatever. So you can kind of see those cycles. And of course, as you progress, it doesn't feel as major of a fall, but things come and go.
Yeah.
And the idea of stabilize, of course, the idea is to stabilize it, but we aren't there yet because we're still stuck in the cycle.
Part of what confuses me, that sometimes I think I understand, but other times I guess I don't understand, is how, you want to attain something, but it says that there's actually nothing to attain. You're trying to get somewhere, but it says there's actually no coming and no going. So sometimes I think I understand that, and other times I don't think I do. But
that's that duality, that pesky duality.
It takes time. It takes time to recognize that. It's a time to stabilize your mind. If you're consistent in the practice, like don't touch that dirty water, right? Yeah, that means if you have that type of stability in the mind, no matter what happens, we will still have that kind of purity. If we have not reached that state of mind yet, it'll come back again. Like in morning or evening, let's say in morning you do meditation, let's say 30 minutes, 1 hour, your mind so calm. That's pure good for you to prepare for a day. But when you go to work, if someone says something wrong about you, it may disturb that kind of calmness. But it's good to calm the mind first. And even before go to sleep, when we set out our mind and we have a good sleep when we calm our mind. Okay, so it's time up. Let us finish today. And all right, thank you.